Good Wednesday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk. Thank you kindly for joining us on a chilly Wednesday morning here in Central Virginia. We are live on the I Love CVille Network across Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world. We're presented by Yes Realty Partners and Ross Mortgage here on a Wednesday. And by Ross Mortgage, I mean the talented, well-versed Scott Morris.
Thank you. That was very kind.
Scott Morris. 2 days in a row with Scott. We love this guy quite a bit, and he's brought with him just an A-plus all-around guy. Judah Wickower is our director. Why don't we go to the three-shot and welcome Randy to the program as well. You see Scott on screen. So, Scott, before we introduce everybody to Randy, give us the nitty-gritty and why you welcome this fine gentleman to the program.
Randy's a great friend, an amazing realtor, runs a good business as far as just really connecting with people, and he's fun to talk to. He also teaches my kids tennis, and that's super cool too.
There we go. Two twin girls. Philip Wilkerson III, welcome to the show. If you want to give Randy, you know Phil?
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to give Randy some props or Scott some props, just put it in the feed and I'll relay it on air. Randy, the show is yours. Introduce yourself to everybody.
All right. Well, it's nice to be here. Thank you. First podcast ever, so I'm pretty excited to be here. But work at Piedmont Fine Properties. We're based out of Warrenton, Virginia. Mostly work the Piedmont area, so that would be Culpepper, Rappahannock, Fauquier. I do work in Orange as well. Yeah, it's nice to be here. I've been in the business for about 8 years this year, so yeah, it's amazing.
What got you into real estate?
So I originally, when I first moved back, after I came back from working with a nonprofit, I started with tennis, and then my mother's been in the business for 15 plus years since I was in middle school. And she just asked me if I'd want to do it, and I said, well, why not? I mean, I've been around it long enough. I kind of have the ins and outs a little bit, and I have a great mentor already. So, yeah.
You hear that, Tish? You are an amazing mentor.
Yeah, so I already kind of had a step up ahead on most people, and I felt like it was a good opportunity to take, and I'd like to take advantage of opportunities I'm given.
Phil says hello. Scott, love seeing you on the show. Phil Wilkerson III. All right, one more question for Randy, and then free-flowing conversation here, fellas. Culpepper market, Warrenton market. You cover a big territory. You said into Orange.
Yeah.
Give us a snapshot. What's going down 2021 and into 2022? Well,
2021, like everyone probably noticed, was an unprecedented year. We're going through a pandemic still, and yet the market is just blowing out the wazoo. I mean, you probably heard about people throwing out home inspections and appraisals, paying over appraised value. We're not seeing that now. It's come back down more to favor the buyer because we do still have a lack of inventory. But it still looks like it's going to be a decent market. And the fact that interest rates are going up, people are still going to want to try to snap up on it this coming year. So I still see it being competitive. But I still think people have a chance, and you can own a good property. The fact that I see we're writing home inspections back into it, people are not paying as much over appraised value. Now you can go into Northern Virginia, and that can change completely. The more rural areas are still seeing that decrease in sales. So,
how about a compare and contrast? Scott, you jump in here, especially with Randy here with ties to Warrenton and Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia to Central Virginia. Compare and contrast for the viewers and listeners.
So it depends on how far north you go.
Yeah.
And like anything else, it has to do with the quality of the property as well. So if you're at a price point below $600,000 and it is a choice property, I'm talking $600,000 to $200,000. If it is what looks to be everyone a deal for the person shopping at that price point, you're still getting multiple offers. That's now, if it is something that may needs a little love and has sat for more than a week, I think that's when we're seeing some of the opportunity for less, maybe getting some seller concessions, inspections, but you can still see multiple offers driving something up on something that's really choice.
Randy, jump in.
So I actually was talking to my broker yesterday, and she was selling a house in Northern Virginia. She had over 120 showings and around 20 offers.
Good Lord.
So that's
and what time range?
Oh gosh, I think it was over the weekend. So I mean, that's Northern Virginia.
That's bananas, Scott.
That's Northern Virginia.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's something that we went through last year in a little bit of everywhere.
Yeah.
And not to mention, so the day the snow hit, like this past storm, I'm not going to speculate on this future storm. There were agents who I talked to who had showings of 20 plus showings on homes, knowing that, like, you know, there's this stuff's coming out of the side, like literally sign put down in the snow, and people showing up to see these homes.
Oh yeah, I mean, last year was my first time I ever wrote a sight unseen offer. If you can see the comparison of the market.
Virtual tour or no virtual tour?
No virtual tour.
No way.
I said, please, let's
Look at the
house.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, man, we gotta write it, because that's how competitive it was. I mean, it was that competitive. I was like, all right, at least drive by, look in the windows, please do something. Made it, and they accepted it. So now, like, I'm never gonna suggest that anybody do that. But I'll go back to the original, like Northern Virginia, and that market is how different it is compared to the Culpepper and like Rappahannock, those areas. Right now, there's such a lack of inventory. I mean, we're down 20% on the inventory we had last year. Or, excuse me, 40% on inventory. And then the sales closings, there's 20%.
Yeah, but from what a lot of the agents that I've talked to, even ones that do a lot more listings than they do buy side, they've seen a lot more activity when it comes to how do I get my house ready, what do I need to do, than they did last year.
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to come on stronger sooner than normal. I think barring some of the weather activity, I think that's what's preventing a lot of people executing what they may need to do to the property to get ready for let's call it the early spring market. I think the end of this month, beginning of next month, we're going to see a lot of more than normal January, February stuff come on as far as listings go.
That's great stuff right there. Randy, we'll get you in the mix. Mark that as a sizzle reel from where Scott just talked. That was fantastic stuff. What's on the brain there, Randy?
Well, to his point, the weather, definitely has affected people. Because I know as realtors, we were looking forward to that spring market. And then I've had a couple listings that we knew were planning to go active soon for the spring market, but then the snow hit, and then we have down trees now, so we have added work along with this. So, the weather has definitely played a part, and of course, the future weather may not necessarily.
You look at Lake Monticello, devastated with the trees, bro. Like I drove down 53 yesterday, and there's still trees hanging on power lines. Like, so that's got to affect, and you look at some of the people's yards, just the stuff that's happened. Had we had like the good global warming winter where, you know, it's 60 degrees in January, we'd be rocking and rolling already.
Four real estate firms watching the program that I can't count right now. We got questions coming in from agents. This one for Randy and for Scott, and this is from Daniel Pettit. First, Rick Tamburino saying so many jarheads on this show. So many jarheads. Rick Tamburino. So Daniel Pettit is watching. Real Estate 3 agent. Are a lot more investors buying homes for rentals that you're seeing, Randy?
So in my area, that's actually very difficult to get. I mean, I'll see potential rentals, and I'll have a showing with my guys, and then they're lined up right after one after the other. So yes, there is a bit of a market for it, but it's really limited in our area just because it's so rural. It's not as metropolitan as your Charlottesville or Northern Virginia where I work. But yeah, it's definitely, there's still a market there.
Scott, this is coming in via Twitter for you. With rates going up, what kind of pressure does that create for a faster market in January and February?
So I think that's get in touch with your clients that have been pre-approved that aren't under contract and have them talk to their lenders. And if you can't get them in touch with their lenders, get them in touch with me, and let's talk about what that does to their purchasing power and their comfort level as far as payment. That's a decision I think really each individual borrower needs to come to terms with. If we were at pre-approved at 3.25 at $300,000, and now we're at 3.5 and 290, 285. Like, what does that do to them as far as their motivation to get moving? Or on the high side, like what is the if we're shopping at 675 instead of 700, where does that put us as far as making a decision? I think that's something that each individual human has to make a decision with. But I will say that just the calls have expressed some urgency of, okay, let's get motivated. What's out there for us to go look at?
That's a second one from my question to that answer. Scott, you're coming out of the gate strong today.
Thank you.
I like that. Nathan Miller, watching on Facebook here. We'll get to the LinkedIn and Twitter questions here shortly. This storm's intensity was fueled by warmer temps, a direct correlation with climate change, Scott. Nathan Miller has that to say. I don't know if you want to go down this road.
Asterisk, I am not a scientist.
Okay, I know. Yeah, I'm a talk show host. This man's in the mortgage business, and this gentleman's a fantastic realtor. What are you hearing from the market with rates going up, Randy, and clients asking, wondering, or jumping in the pool?
Still a demand. There's always been the demand. The demand's never changed. Our biggest issue, I still have buyers that are looking for something, but most of the time, like if we're talking first-time home buyers, there's a huge demand for first-time home buyers in my market, and that's usually the biggest majority. I have a few clients that I'm working with right now that are repeat buyers, so they're going to be a little more cautious about what they're buying because currently there's just not a lot on right now. But that demand has not changed at all. No.
I think the number one rule for the first-time home buyer is if you can get into a quality property, get in as early as possible, stop
Absolutely.
paying rent, and start building equity.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't matter where you're missing the rate by an eighth or a quarter has zero impact on the 10-year picture for you purchasing this home. Obtaining ownership is the biggest way to build generational wealth, and getting into that market should be your number one priority. If you can save for the closing costs, we can work for the down payment. You have options.
I think you just did your third one right there.
All right, I like it.
Scott Morris, there's the third J-Dubs. Mark that. Ray Cadell of Ray Cadell and Associates watching the program. Ray, please let us know if you have any questions. What's the first-time home buyer market looking like in your neck of the woods? Here in Charlottesville and Albemarle County, which we follow very closely, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Almost non-existent.
Yeah.
First-time home buyers are looking at price points that are $350, $375, $400.
Yeah.
And that price point, as we all know, has got a multiple offer, incredibly competitive scenario. And frankly, to cut to the chase, it may need some TLC. Now,
Absolutely.
there's some pockets that you can potentially find something, Scott, in the high 2s, low 3s. We've seen Lake Monticello boom as a result of that. But inventory in a 4,300 rooftop neighborhood is what? 10 to 12 units on the market right now, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and half of those are new construction.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the other problem. Like, if you would, you'd love to see Greene County. I'd love to get a conversation with like Matthew Woodson to talk about Greene.
Nest Realty's Matthew Woodson?
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd love to see the problem with trying to find a builder who's going to build at a price point that's affordable for the first-time home buyer, because it's more profitable for them to build in that mid-tier and that sell up, especially for the builder who's doing 20 homes a year, not somebody who's doing 200 homes a year. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. And the demand, it hasn't changed yet. The first-time home buyers, I had a few last year, and they even bought in the Northern Virginia range, but we originally started, like I try to tell everyone, when we first start, you want to shop around a price range, just like you're renting. You have an idea of how much rent you're going to come out a month, so you're going to talk to your lender about how much you want to spend a month, and then all of a sudden we start at this price point, and then we're moving up because the lack of homes isn't there, so people are having to move up their budget to increase to get an actually decent home. And I try to tell everyone, like, you're a first-time home buyer, you're not looking for a unicorn.
So what do you tell you? Let's talk about that. What do you first start out telling your first-time home buyers from the moment that they reach out to you? What's the process? Where do you take them from start to finish? Where do you go?
Well, the number one thing you got to answer is, what's your why? Why are you looking to buy? Why do you want to buy? Are you looking to increase your own equity? You can put money back into your own pocket rather than to somebody else's. And then you want to ask them, okay, so what's your 5-year goal plan? I mean,
How long are you going to be in the home?
How long are you going to be in the home? Because then they'll understand, oh, right, this isn't my forever home. I don't need to be looking for everything to be a little perfect. I can buy a house that needs a little TLC, because you're going to have to at some point be realistic. You have a budget, you got to stick to it, but at the same point, you don't want to be house poor.
I like there's been a real estate meme floating around from the Yellowstone, and it's one of the sons and the girlfriend, and it's like first-time home buyers looking for 5 acres and a shop for $200,000. And it's like, aren't we all, friend?
I've seen that meme. Are you a Yellowstone fan?
Yeah.
I love Yellowstone. Are you an 1883 fan?
I've seen the first episode.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, great show.
Well,
the Taylor Sheridan, I mean, that dude kills it.
He's killing it.
Yeah, 100%.
Mayor of Kingstown. He's got Wind River on Netflix. He's absolutely killing it. So questions are coming in for you guys, and I love it. Keep the questions coming. This is from Leslie, who is watching in Green. She says, is the Culpepper and Madison area and the Warrenton area getting pinched from Northern Virginia even more?
Yes. I've noticed it.
Yes.
I've noticed people moving down.
But there's a new subdivision, mixed use, 500 unit project coming into, so single family and townhouse coming into Culpepper that they break ground on this year.
Clevenger's Corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. What's the name of it again?
Clevenger's Corner.
Okay.
So it's out by, it's on the northern side of Culpepper.
So that's going to do 2 things. That's going to give some step up from people who are going to be.
It's going to open up inventory.
It's going to open up some inventory, and it's going to give some. It's going to give the townhouses will give a nice entry point for first-time home buyers, and then depending on like where you are in your position, the single family will as well. But it also gives step-up turnover for people selling that have been they got in as a first-time home buyer, and now they can move into a neighborhood. They've got kids. They bought in having babies. Now they've got small children, and it creates that community environment that I think everybody's looking for.
And they're supposed to have them in-house. They're supposed to have houses built by the end of this year too. So I mean,
pre-sale?
Yeah.
Is it happening pre-sale?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you can go into South Wales Golf Course in Culpepper, and you can see all the signs for Stonehaven subdivision.
Wait a second. There's another golf course at Culpepper?
You don't know about Stone? Yes, joke.
I'm here to promote the club. That's all.
Yeah.
So I'll throw this to you guys. All inventory is good inventory. A lot of people give grief when rooftops are coming on the market that have 5, 6, 7s, 8s in front of them from a number standpoint, a pricing standpoint. But to Scott's point, that creates a step up opportunity. And when current homeowners step up the market, that opens up their existing homes for people to purchase.
Absolutely.
Let's go down that road. All inventory is good inventory for the market, especially when it's so pinched right now like we have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, any inventory we can get, I would absolutely love as a realtor. But the hardest part with somebody that necessarily wants to be a seller, to give their inventory up, well, they're going to have to find a place to buy. And that's what I usually run into with most sellers, that, well, even if I have to sell, even if I'm going to sell, I'm going to make a lot of money on my house. Well, I still got to buy a house. And that's the common problem I keep running into with people that are trying to get off and to attempt selling.
I mean, we touch on this a lot. I know it's a huge thing for Keith. Is new construction is the missing component. In fact, during the Fed speak yesterday, one of the questions was, how do we deal with such a tight housing market, and how is that going to affect future prices? And Jay Powell said, well, I can't really affect that, but we are 3 million houses per year short of where we need to be. So like, that's the bell that keeps ringing. And like this Clevenger's Corner, it's an area like Culpepper that allows for some more expansion. I mean, I think that Zion's Crossroads, Green, the Fluvanna side of Zions, there's still a lot of property out there. If these counties could get on board with, how do we create a path to making this more opportunistic for builders to get a big project done in order to put some of these homes in the ground?
Absolutely.
This question's coming in from Matthew. Are you seeing folks from Charlottesville and Albemarle County moving to Culpepper and Madison, or is it more folks from Northern Virginia moving to Culpepper and Madison, and why?
So Madison can be a little bit of a different story.
Okay.
Not Culpepper as much for Charlottesville. Madison is cheaper than obviously Charlottesville as you get into Green too. But I've noticed for Culpepper, it's going to be more Northern Virginia because you do have, at least for me. Now, I don't talk to everybody in Culpepper, Scott, okay? But I will say the new build in Clevenger's Corner, Culpepper hasn't had that large of a build in years.
Since
Ryan Holmes.
Yeah, what's the Three Flags over on the
Three
corner?
Flags,
of 220?
actually, yeah. So we still have our local builders that are building, but they're only building, a handful of houses a year. So that is definitely going to help the market in the future and near future. But as going back to the question, we don't have as many Charlottesville people that I've noticed. I have a couple people that have necessarily moved jobs into Charlottesville, but they've already been their transplants as far as job location, not necessarily moving back into Culpepper.
So I see more along it depends on where. Like Culpepper's a big county. So it's got a decent amount of manufacturing with a couple different large companies. So there's some big employers there inside of Culpepper itself. But if you are on the Route 3 side, it's a bedroom community for Fredericksburg. If you are on the north side, it's a bedroom community for Northern Virginia. And if you are on the south side, kind of where I live, it can be a bedroom community for Charlottesville. It's 35 minutes door to door from Taste Shack, where I'll be eating after the show, and you're 35 minutes to Fredericksburg, and you're 40 minutes to Manassas, like downtown. So depending on where you're at in the county, it is a bedroom community for different metropolitan areas. Now, that's Three Flags is closer to, that's your Charlottesville. You're right off the exit. You're bang, getting in and out. Fredericksburg, you're more in that, what's the Lignum, that
Lignum,
area, as you're traveling east. But yeah, no, I think it's a bedroom community as far as supporting different. If you wanted to go to a smaller price point, the taxes are cheaper in Culpepper than they are Charlottesville, significantly. Albemarle, Fluvanna even. And so if you want to be 35 minutes away, there's a path there. So if you're someone who's looking to expand your search, give Randy a call, see what that looks like.
Randy, you're doing a hell of a job. Scott, you always do a hell of a job. I just tagged Justin, Candace, and Taste Shack on the feed right now.
Nice.
And let them know you're giving them big time props. Cheryl Lynn giving you some love. Micah Haynes giving you some love here in the feed. If you have questions for the gentleman, put them in the comment section. DM me, hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, YouTube, whatever it may be. We'll relay it on air. More questions coming in for you guys. Are builders building a good majority of townhomes in all areas due to cost of land? It does force many first-time home buyers to buy them because of the costs and the advantages of that price point.
We haven't had a large townhome build since, we don't have,
since like 2008. 2009.
Yeah. So I can't really say no. They're building townhomes because there's a lack of land, and I'm still in a rural area, so land really isn't necessarily an issue.
Yeah, we can do those townhomes in Culpepper as USDA.
Like the majority of listings I currently have.
So zero down purchases.
Yeah, and the majority of listings I currently have are mostly land because our houses just snap up. No, we haven't really had an issue with cost of land and then having townhomes built on top of it.
How is it more difficult? So we don't see as much of this in Charlottesville and Albemarle. Is it more difficult to broker a deal of land only? What's the buyer pool for land only? And then how do you finance land only?
So I don't do any land only. I have personally purchased land using Farm Credit of Virginia, UVA.
How many acres you got?
Credit Union. How many do I have?
Yeah.
29.
Okay.
And you can go. UVA has a decent product. There's some brick and mortar banks do. Land exposes the lender to more risk. Like if you're not going to walk away from your house typically, you're going but if things get hard, that land can go sit somewhere, and that's the problem. And then what a lot of people get into is, well, I want to build a house. I want to buy the land first. That's totally fine, and it gives you some other options because at that point, I work with Jefferson Home Builders who they pay for the build, and then you buy the house back at the end. So they'd go in, put a lien on your property, build the house, and then you would refinance. It'd be back out of it using the land that you own as equity in the purchase.
Randy, jump in here.
And land, I haven't, as land solely purchasing, we haven't had as much. I haven't had as much. Most of the land that they've bought been with a private contractor that has bought the property and then built the house for them. But no, we don't get a lot of just land only, solely properties. But yeah.
Someone who's trying to, this question's come in the feed, and I'm going to button this up and put a bow around it, tighten the question up. I appreciate the question, though, Grayson. You are looking to do a custom build. You have identified a piece of land, the formula for getting financing for the custom build and the land purchase. Are you scooping up the land first, hoping to build a little equity in the land, and then leveraging that to get the loan? Or are you bundling it all together at once?
I suggest bundling it all together at once.
Okay, let's give us the analytics here.
So that way you can go in, have a plan with the builder, have the builder actually have plans, and you can go in and do a construction to perm. Typically you're going to be looking 10% down, as opposed to the land's going to be a minimum of 20 by itself, and then you're going to go and not knowing that amount of equity might not get you what you're looking to do if you don't own it outright. So if you can, I would suggest doing the all as one. The land, the builder has plans. Go in, you're putting 10% down. You're going to be interest only until closing, and the builder will get draws through the construction process, which typically they want to see done in 6 months, and then you close and take ownership at that point.
That's his follow-up question, and it's a good one. Performance thresholds of when the money goes to the builder, and then the second part of the question is mine. Does that money just go through an escrow account? Does it even hit the hands of the land and future homeowner? Okay, how does that work? I'm learning now.
So it's interest only. So the draw schedule would be worked out depending on what lender you were going through. That could vary a little bit, but as far as which milestones that they want to hit, foundation is typically one, and then there's, again, that can vary, so I don't want to deep dive into that. But you are paying interest only until the build is complete.
This question's for Randy. Have you seen the Culpepper market get momentum with no inventory here in Charlottesville? How many folks have expanded their footprint or their search? Good question from Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the cost of living, as you see in Charlottesville, I mean, anywhere, if you even move into Northern Virginia, yes, we will get a trickle effect. We're always going to get a trickle effect because people are going to go and live where they can afford to live. People will need to live.
Bing, bing. That's it right there.
Yeah.
Like that's why I love Charlottesville. I love Charlottesville. I grew up here, grew up around the area. I grew up in Fluvanna, but Charlottesville being where I spent most of my formative years, we'll call them. So this is like I Heart CVille. This is where my heart is. But trying to be a first-time homebuyer here is super painful.
Yeah.
So if you're working here, that's why I push Fluvanna, Greene, Madison, Culpepper, Buckingham. Like if you can be in a bedroom community and still get to spend time here, hit the restaurants, do everything that you want to do, but have a little something more for yourself, I mean, I think that's what it is, but it really is going to take new construction to open up to get there.
And the pandemic did actually, I mean, see us an increase in people moving in, because the jobs were now people didn't have to necessarily go into the office. I mean, I know plenty of people that are based in Charlottesville, but they still work from home because it's all online now. So as that has helped us, because now they can afford to maybe only have to go into the office 1 or twice a week, and then they only have to make that 30 to 45-minute commute that many times.
So let's talk about that. So we got a first-time home buyer. They've contacted you. They've talked to you about your goals. Let's talk about identifying their area. So you got their why. You got all the stuff. Once you figure out their area, where are you going?
Then you come into play, the lender.
Okay.
So it's budget.
All right. So then, how much can you afford? So then they reach out to me. I have a conversation with them, talking about the process from start to finish, what a pre-approval is, how that's your ticket to go shopping, how that allows the listing agent to know that your finances have been vetted, what an earnest money deposit is, and how that happens once you've got a ratified contract. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Nice, Scott.
About the ratified contract.
A ratified contract and earnest money deposit.
And our process.
So when they hear EMD, what does that mean?
That means
$5K, right?
that is basically, if you want to look at it in like a renter's standpoint, because most people that are first-time home buyers, all they know is rent. All right, you put a security deposit on a house. That's basically what an EMD is, but you put it on a contract. That's all it is. So if you were to say one day, I got a ratified contract now.
Let's say you wanted to move to New York in the middle of the process.
Exactly. That's perfect. So you want to move anywhere. If you want to just get out of the contract, your EMD is your security deposit on that contract. Now the seller has a right. You've wasted my time. I'm going to hold this EMD up. You're $2,000, so you're not going to get your $2,000 back.
Is it $2,000, $5,000, 1% of the contract? I've seen them for as low as $500. How does that work?
It varies, right?
Yes, it does vary, and it depends on how good you want the contract to look. I mean, if you're making, I like to tell people $500 per every $100,000.
Yeah.
That's what you should at least anticipate. If you want it to look like a really nice offer, throw 10 grand in there. And now you're saying, I'm serious about this.
Because
I want to
it's
get
showcasing
close.
skin in the game.
Yes, that's what it is. Because this is your skin basically to the seller, saying like, how serious I am about this contract. And that's usually what I see is the typical issue. There's two different types of first home buyers: the ones that are way over anxious and the ones that just don't care. We don't always get a nice balance because, I mean, it's real estate. It's first time.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I will say, like, once you have a ratified contract, that's the easy part for me. Because, I mean, then it's just checking boxes. Like, we do this, we do this, we do this. We go down the line, and then it goes to financing, and the financing is usually the last thing. So we get a ratified contract. You have a nice EMD, which your earnest money deposit, and now the next thing we're looking for is a home inspection. Okay, so I will always advise someone, get a home inspection. You don't go out and buy a car without.
Is the home inspector always going to find things wrong with the house?
No. Home inspectors do not have x-ray vision. They can't look through walls. So they're also human beings.
And some are better than others.
Some are way better than others. I like for you to go there with your realtor and for you to ask questions as they're going through it. Now, keep in mind, you're asking them questions. They might get distracted a little bit. They may not see one thing. But they also will instate that I am not a perfect person. But they will give you a detailed report. Every home inspector will give you a detailed report. They should give you detailed.
I guess what I was asking is not so much as are they going to miss anything, because that's just the nature of life. But what I am asking is, when you say detailed report, are they going to tell you there are 30 things wrong with the house?
They're going to tell you what is wrong with the house visually and what they inspect, and they will recommend you getting it fixed by a licensed contractor.
So what I like to tell the first-time home buyers from my end to prepare them for their experience with their realtors is that the home inspector is going to go in and find a list of 30 things-ish that are wrong with the house, in air quotes. And the reason that they're doing that is because you're paying them to do it.
Yes.
And these may not be material defects. These may not be things that are going to affect you being able to finance the house, but at the same time need to be brought to your attention. So don't be overly alarmed that the things that they are bringing up is going to be the end of the world and you should not buy this house because this guy gives you such, or gal gives you such a long list. This is just something that you should be aware of when you're paying this person to do this job.
Bravo.
Yes.
Well said. And there's different degrees of inspectors. Some, we'll cut to the chase, are alarmists.
Yeah.
Others are realists.
Yes.
And utilize common sense with the inspection report. Can we go down that road?
Yeah, without me dragging.
You don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah. There's certainly some approaches that I appreciate more than others.
Yes, that's probably the best way it can be said.
Okay.
Thank you. I like to be able to say things in the best way possible.
And you're doing dude, you're on fire today, Scott. EMD, earnest money deposit. I think it's important to reiterate that this is some money you will not lose.
Yeah.
If the deal falls through, it goes back to you. It's held in escrow.
Yeah.
It does not go to the sellers.
Yeah.
Can we go down that road?
Well, another thing to keep in mind, when you put that EMD down, that's also used towards your closing costs, which a lot of people don't actually understand that.
Or down payment.
Or
So
down payment.
if your closing costs were negotiated
Correct.
into the process and you're only making a down payment and you can be refunded. Let's say that we got all the closing costs paid. You wanted to do you were a USDA, a VA, or a 100% down payment program. You can be refunded up to the amount of your earnest money deposit. So if you went in and bought a $350,000 house, we got you $17,000 in closing costs paid, and it was a VA loan, you could be refunded that $3,500, assuming that that came out of your closing costs.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, that actually sums it up pretty good. That's a lot of things people don't understand about EMDs is that, you can get that money back if you do have closing costs paid.
So we got first-time home buyer. We got them pre-approved.
Scott, you're doing great today.
Thanks.
Yes. Okay, you're doing great today.
We got a first-time home buyer. We got them pre-approved. You got them under contract. They've given an earnest money deposit.
We're at the home inspection. We took care of that.
Home inspection, we're through. During this time, I've reached out to them and let them know that they're going to make the payment for their appraisal. And in this time, I've taken all of their information and moved it from my team on the front end to a processor. A processor has prepared the documentation and submitted it to an underwriter. We're at
This is all the financing, by the way.
Day 12, we now have a conditional approval. So what that means for the first-time home buyer is that based on all the information that we have at this point, everything that they've done, their 2-year work history, where they've lived, everything that we've seen and gathered on the property, this loan is going to be approved. So right now, we're only waiting for the appraisal. Now, what is if you're the buyer agent or the listing agent, what's your best practices in interacting with the appraiser to make sure that they can be informed, your buyers are going to be informed, that you've done as much as you can to protect the process?
All right,
Can you
so
tell
we'll
me
start
about
with
that?
the listing agent. So if I'm on the listing agent's, the appraiser is always going to reach out to me to schedule an appointment to do an appraisal.
Also, can the lender have any direct contact with the appraiser?
No. It's all third party, which this is something I learned when I first got into the business after the housing market collapsed.
We call it the great
excuse me.
unpleasantness.
Yeah, the time of
Excuse
great
me.
unpleasantness.
Yeah, excuse
That's right.
me.
Especially Keith. If Keith were here, he would very much emphasize that. Yeah.
A lot
I
of
think
things,
he's watching.
Yeah, so after that happened, a lot of it, the proper protections for the buyer is that it was done out of house, so we had third-party appraisers coming in. So yes, that adds a little bit of stress because then I can contact the lender and say, hey, when did you schedule the appraisal? I haven't heard from the appraiser. Well, what's going on here? I have to rely on them to tell me when they had it scheduled, and then so now I'm the listing agent. The appraiser finally reached out to me. I'm gonna meet the appraiser there to justify. I'm going to show them the comps. I'm going to give them basically a folder that says, hey, this is how I got this price. I expect to see something around that ballpark. That's how I'll engage with the appraiser, and then I usually anticipate.
You talk about improvements to the property, like if there's a new HVA system, the roof's new, that sort of thing.
I try to give them everything that'll increase the value that'll show the proper value of the property. If I'm the buyer's agent, it's a little more difficult because then I have to rely on the listing agent to tell me when the appraiser is scheduled to go. And I work with a lot of really good agents, and then I've worked with some that just started. So it's not necessarily as easy being a buyer's agent to talk to the appraiser.
So in that scenario, you're almost like a shepherd. You're shepherding the deal to the finish line.
As a realtor, that's basically all you are. And sometimes you can be a therapist, but you don't really talk, you just listen. And a lot of times as human beings, I felt like that's really all we have to do is just be ears, and then people will help work their own problems out. We're a shepherd and a sounding board as realtors.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Scott.
I like to tell people I'm your spirit guide to this
That's
transaction.
also really good one too, yeah.
Spirit guy. You're like Casey in was it season 4 that we just saw when he was sitting outside in the freezing cold?
Yeah, I'm the wolf.
Yeah, you're the wolf. You're the wolf from Yellowstone right there. This is a good question. This is a challenging question. This is from a realtor. If a new home is being built in Culpepper County, how much time is it for builder to get permits and costs so they could get to actual construction?
Ooh.
Depends on your builder.
Yeah, and it depends on also, I mean, if your builder possibly pissed off the right people. We're still a small town, and I know the people that work in those offices. So, I mean, it can be anywhere from a few weeks to a couple months. I mean, I have a new build. I know some people that are going through a new build right now that they have run into issue after issue with necessary zoning. And a lot of it is dragged out just because, well, I mean, like most contractors.
Some builders. All right. So let's talk about that. That's it. Really is how organized and how well prepared is, everybody's different, man. Like when you look at small businesses, let's look at calling contractors. How many people out there have had the experience of where you want a new deck, you want your floors done, whatever it is, and you call 5 different contractors and nobody calls you back?
Constantly.
These guys might be great at their trade, but terrible freaking businessmen. Mm-hmm. And the same thing goes for builders. They may have a way of interacting with subs that gets things done from A to Z in a timely and organized fashion, but when they try to communicate with the county, that same formula does not apply.
Yeah.
And if you can't learn to turn on and off who needs donuts and smiles and who needs a firm hand, you can create problems. And some people are better at it than others.
Yeah.
Randy, thoughts?
No, and he's exactly right. I mean, in our market, we are a small town. We don't run it. It's not necessarily run like a business. And then the weather also plays a massive part in it too.
County offices in any government entity that are not always run like a business.
Yeah, the libertarian and Scott Morris is coming out right there, and I can respect that. I'm similar ideology right there. This question is about broadband in Culpepper.
Oh, okay.
How often do you hear that?
A lot.
Yeah, I mean, is that almost like top 2-3 questions being asked to you?
Yes, absolutely. Broadband is a number one thing because, like I said earlier, when we have people like
do we have FiOS?
Yes, we do. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I have FiOS.
Okay,
but I'm also in town, so that's a little different. So broadband is one of the biggest questions we get. Like Scott said earlier, Culpepper is kind of a midpoint for Northern Virginia, Charlottesville, Fredericksburg. So we are rural. So there are parts of Culpepper and Madison that don't necessarily have Comcast or broadband.
Elon Musk keeps firing them satellites off, bro.
But yes, and I do know a couple people like in the Rappahannock area that are waiting on their what is Elon's
Starlink. I
they're
call
waiting
it
on
Skynet because I like Terminator.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Yeah.
Brittany's, your wife just shared the show. Hello, Brittany. Your husband spoke very highly of you before the show, Brittany. More questions coming in from agents here about Culpepper. So finish your thought on broadband, and then the follow-up question on broadband is, in Culpepper, are areas divided based on broadband quality, and how are they impacting price?
They're not actually affected by price as much because Culpepper is expanding their broadband. So as the years go by, we're going to continue to get it because that's what's majorly pushed by a lot of our legislation. But yeah, it doesn't affect it as much because of the lack of inventory. Most people are gonna try to deal. We still have access to internet, but it's not necessarily as fast. But the lack of inventory that we have doesn't really affect the need for broadband and people's need for a house. Their need for a house outweighs or their desire for a house outweighs their need for a broadband. Yeah, because I mean, most of the places where I've sold in Culpepper, people do need the broadband, but we haven't really had an issue with.
I think it's more. I've personally seen that more. I mean, even out in it starts with an R. What's the name of the community on the backside of Norman Road?
Rixieville.
Not Rixieville. It's a neighborhood.
On Norman Road. Oh, yeah, Realhurst.
So Realhurst has they've got high speed internet.
Yes,
and they're pretty. And that's a rural side of the county, and that's really expanded. And from my experience, a big part of the area doesn't have internet concerns until you get more rural, like into that
Boston area,
Madison, some like Rixieville, some of that out.
Amosville as well.
The more rural portions, just kind of like Fluvanna. I think there's some areas that may not have Verizon or Fios, but.
Yeah, and as far as the market, like, and if broadband affecting the price, like I said, the lack of inventory, just people don't necessarily, they're not as concerned about broadband because they're looking for a place to live. They need a place to live, and a lot of the people that are moving out there, it's more land, so they're looking for more land, and that's what they want.
Aaron King watching the program, one of Western Albemarle High School's finest alum. I love you, Aaron. Jamie Turner, Woodbury Forest alum. We call him the mayor of Gordonsville. Now has moved to Culpepper. He says, gentlemen, how is Fios? I just closed on a property in the town of Culpepper, and I'm trying to decide between Fios and Xfinity.
I'm a Fios guy. I have Fios, and I don't like Xfinity.
I like Xfinity. I'm 300 MBS down and 20 up, and have had, I went through a period where I think there was a lightning strike that damaged the line, and after complaining about it for 6 months, they replaced the entire line and hardwired the house. So I've had a decent experience with Verizon.
Fios? How about the Fios take, Randy?
I prefer it. I don't actually know I don't know
down speed?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I know I got.
If you yell at them enough, you'll learn, because you tell them on the phone all the time.
Oh well, yeah. I have never had an issue with Verizon. My cell carrier is also through Verizon, so I kind of do everything under one house. I've experienced Comcast before. I never really had an issue with it, but I still think I've never had a real issue with Verizon and Fios, so I'd always suggest it.
Multiple people, 2 people are asking, was 2021 the best year in business for you guys, and can 2022 duplicate 2021?
2021 was a really good year for us. I don't know as if it was our best year. I think we sold somewhere around 15 million in production, so it was pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. And then I think for us personally in the Smyth team, I don't know if it'll be as good of a year for us, but I still see. I mean, the market is still so good as far as if you're a seller. So, and I think people will still want to sell. And as we get into the spring and things start to calm down a little bit, because this is another thing I try to tell everyone in Culpepper is that a lot of it is based around small family, so it's based around school system. And if kids aren't in school, things are kind of thrown a little haywire. And then we got the weather as well. So once things get kind of back to, well, I say normal, but things will never be back to normal because we're living through a pandemic. But
I politely disagree.
You're going to call it an endemic.
Oh, excuse me. I'm not familiar with y'all's terms now.
No. You're totally fine.
I'm saying. Normal is on the way. When you have everybody doing and saying what they are doing and saying, to say, you know what? Oh wow, I think we're going to have to go back to life because we should have a long time ago. And you got friends from Florida and Texas that fly into Virginia, and they're like, bro, what do? You guys are still doing this? And it's only a matter of time before. And we've already seen they adjusted their federal CDC guidelines based on how they expect people to react in the future.
You're talking the 5-day quarantine?
Yeah. And this is not forever, and you cannot live like it is forever, or you're not going to be a happy, successful human.
Well, I've also thought that as we're turning a point to where we understand a new normal, to the fact that there's no such thing as necessarily a normal. We just
Well, sure. Yeah. I'm a weird. Everybody's weird, man. I'm weird in my own ways. If we want to consider that like that, there's the new normal. I'm on board.
All right, I'll say this. I will say this, and we'll get to these questions that are coming in here. Spain and the United Kingdom are now indicating that they're going to treat COVID and Omicron as if it's the flu now.
Oh,
Yeah.
for real?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're going to keep the politics out of this for now. And they're now saying it's going to be like the flu, and they're relaxing COVID, quarantine, masking, and vaccination strategies. And guess what? They're leaving it up to the person to decide. I don't want to throw that to Scott Morris. Because,
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good.
We're going to pass. Scott's going to pass on that. Smart man, Scott Morris. So more questions coming in. Scott, you're killing it here. Randy, you're killing it as well. Percentage of new home buyers to the Culpepper area that are working from an ISP. Can you offer some perspective on that? That's a good question. Is it a lot, or is that a manufactured story, or is Culpepper just kind of out of the brink of like that Nova suburb? For instance, Scott, you know this. We got a hell of a lot of people in the Charlottesville, Albemarle County area that sold 1-2 townhome and scooped up like 650, 800, 900 plus 1 acre or larger property here in Charlottesville area.
So the bigger question is, what do they do for a living? Like we've got, that's what drives that. And so yes, I saw a lot of it last year, and not just there. I saw it here in Albemarle as well. People who had the ability to. I mean, I had someone last year who is working for Aramco in Saudi Arabia, and they are letting her come back to Central Virginia to work remotely.
Wow.
Like, yeah, amazing. Like it's so it just. What do you do? Like, do you work in a service industry where your income is driven from showing up face to face with someone? You know, it depends on the job. I've got friends that work for Wells Fargo as analysts who thought they were going back to work and still working from home. So but the end game is to get them back in the office at some point. So it really just depends on your individual situation. I think we saw a lot of it. I think that these companies are going to want their people back in the office, because how are you going to network, grow, find a mentor, create relationships from sitting in your underwear working from your kitchen or office or whatever you want to call it? The reality is people need to be inside these businesses depending on what their business is. So yes, we've seen a lot of it. Do I expect it to decline over time? Yeah, it's just the nature of the beast.
Randy,
definitely, yeah. I mean, we like I said before, we definitely had an increase of people moving in because they were able to work from home. And any good leader is going to want to be able to at least see the people that are working, and they're not going to want to have necessarily space and office space that they're paying for that people aren't going to be going to. So yeah, definitely in the future, I mean, if it's affecting somebody's pocketbook, yeah, it's going to change.
So this is coming in from Apple Podcasts, and for those that are new to the show, and I'm seeing a lot of new viewers and listeners on our heat map from the Culpepper area, which is certainly your guys' influence here. The show airs live on what we call the I Love CVille Network, which is 15 Facebook pages, 15 Twitter accounts, and every social media platform known to mankind. This is from Apple Podcasts, and this is coming from Randy. How many houses did you sell in virtual tour fashion? And what does Randy think about the open house and whether it's a thing of tomorrow?
No, open house is still good. I'll start with that one. I recommend, in today's digital age, so many properties will come available, and I like for people to see them as soon as they come available. Now, if there's going to be an open house that first weekend that it's open, as a realtor, I try to, as a listing agent, I try to schedule around other listings around that area like anybody else would, so multiple people can get in it. So yeah, I still think open houses are still happening, especially as the COVID rules start to relax a little bit. Yeah, now during the first part of the pandemic, we didn't have any open houses.
At that part of the pandemic, the talk was maybe the open house evaporates forever.
Yeah. But no, it's
And clearly, we discussed with 120 showings in 2 days that maybe
Yeah.
that's not the case.
That did not materialize.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's also, I mean, that's the Northern Virginia market. That you have to understand. That's a completely different beast in its own. But what was the first part of your question?
The first part of the question was virtual tours.
Virtual tours.
Selling
How many
homes
did
through
it?
virtual tours
A
only.
lot. I actually did a lot.
Really?
I was way surprised. I did enough to where I had to invest in a camera stabilizer because I realized how difficult it is to
So
do.
you have your phone on a camera stabilizer.
No,
You're walking through your phone.
Yeah.
Through the house.
Yeah, and I'll record a video and then I'll upload it to like the Dropbox or a website, and then they can see it from there, or like Vimeo or something like that. So yeah, I did. I sold a couple. They moved from Oregon. One of our listings we just sold in December. They were a couple that moved from Oregon as well.
So is this
that
different
they-
than sight unseen, or is this sight
No.
unseen?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It is sight unseen, but because I mean, how much detail are you going to capture within that little camera? I mean, most of the pictures are so highly developed now that you can usually see an issue that's wrong.
You mean Photoshop?
No,
Okay.
if there's a Photoshop, that's a different story. There's no such thing as Photoshop in real
Randy,
estate.
you're handling Scott very well today. Very well, my friend.
At least in my book,
I've seen
there's no
some
such thing as
awfully
photo.
green grass in some
Yeah,
of these photos. That's all I'm saying.
that does happen. And some.
How about the superimposed furniture in the houses?
Yeah.
When you go in,
God,
it's
yeah.
a completely empty house, but online, it's like, oh my gosh, it's decorated so beautifully.
Yeah, that was a new thing I didn't know about until the beginning of this year. I didn't know people actually did that. But yeah, so virtual tours and like people literally doing video showings. That's definitely a thing. And I don't ever see that going away as technology like Matterport, where you can step into each room of the house, that increases. You'll start to see even more.
Do you think Matterport is a must?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
It's not. It's cool.
Yeah.
Really nice shiny toy.
Any
I'd love to have it.
negativity to Matterport at all?
Well, see, I can't really give you a negativity
Okay.
because I don't own it. I would think the only way it would be you would have a negative feeling about it is if you were to own it and then like say customer service. I wouldn't think it's another tool. I mean, that's all it is. It's a nice shiny tool. People can do a walkthrough, but only if you're doing a video tour are you going to really be concerned about it, because other than that, you're going to be walking in the house yourself. So is it necessary? No. Is it nice to have? Absolutely. I mean,
This coming in, Scott, I'm curious what's on the brain over there because I see the wheels moving. This is coming in from iTunes. So multiple questions on iTunes I'm going to get to. How about this question? Does the hospital in Culpepper keep on expanding due to future growth?
yes. The
Yeah.
hospital's buying as much as they can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right across from my office, they bought up like several acres and already upgraded it, put it in like a section of road. Yeah, it's growing.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Top employer from iTunes. What are the top employers in Culpepper?
Ooh, top
Continental, merchants, not the auto place.
Merchants
There's
Grocery.
like a grocery
Yeah.
supply. The Cintas is headquartered in Culpepper,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. So that's 3 big ones off the top of my head. And then your local government.
Yeah, local government. You have Bingham and Taylor. They employ not a lot of people. Then you also have the Jefferson Home Builders and
Culpepper Wood Supply.
Culpepper Wood Supply, there, which are all throughout the U.S. So
William Galloway represent
Yeah.
Jefferson Home. Joe Daniels, Josh Daniels. Hello.
Good shout outs right there from Scott Morris. New business coming into the area is the follow-up question.
we've had a lot of first small business owners. A lot of small businesses come into Culpepper.
It's actually a great small business community.
yeah, very much so. A lot
Because
of
you're saying Culpepper government, it's pro-business?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah?
mhm.
Okay, because, I mean, that's one of the tough parts of, I might get myself in trouble, but I do that all the time on the show here. Running
Yeah.
a business in Charlottesville is not easy
Yeah,
with
yeah.
local government. I mean, we're paying, and you're really going to appreciate this, I'm paying gross taxes on this business in March for the entire year. So I'm projecting for the entire year in March and making the lump sum payment in Q1, which is
God.
most people's slow quarter,
Yeah.
for the entire year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? That's crazy. It's not. I'll leave that for another day. So Culpepper, very very pro business.
Yes, very much so. And I mean, they've done a lot to try and help the businesses especially like Culpepper's known for a lot of their restaurants and boutique shops on the downtown. Well, our downtown area is one street, but
It's nice.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is a really nice small town. It's a little quaint town. They're very pro business. They trying to help the small business owner as much as they can.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
Kelsey follows. Is there an opportunity for any more housing in downtown Culpeper?
That's hard. You're gonna
Yeah.
find more
In
land.
downtown?
Yeah.
I
Downtown
mean,
is-
they just, was it, so Jefferson owns that building with,
What?
where the brewery is.
Yeah.
And then Yates did the thing above State Theater
Mm-hmm.
or over there. So yes, there's opportunity. There's probably some buildings that you can still build up, and create some more, I don't want to call them condos, but that type of living.
I mean,
probably
there's still lots in the town of Culpepper that
That's
are
true.
available.
behind your house.
I know, yeah, right next to my house actually. So there is lots that are available. There are fixer-uppers in the town of Culpepper still that, I mean, they're going to have to be sold first, but they're mostly used for rental income. I mean, a lot of the, like your Jefferson Home Builders, Yates Properties, a lot of them own a lot of this downtown property that they use as rentals. No, there's not a lot downtown, but there is a little bit. Yeah.
Good answer, Scott. What's on the brain over there?
Yeah, I'd say the answer is yes. There's opportunity, depending on your means and your willingness to figure something out. Yeah, but that goes anywhere. Like where is the opportunity and how creative are you?
Yeah, the question is, how much money do you want to throw at it?
Yeah,
too?
and what are your means to make the fix?
What's that price point?
It can vary. It
So-
can
so
vary
starting
from,
TLC
if
to
you're
finished
looking at
product.
a lot, you're probably looking at least $150,000.
For the land alone?
Yep. For
Okay.
the land alone. But the houses can vary from $200,000 all the way up to, I mean, we had another one that just sold for $900 or $800. I mean, they vary. I haven't seen one go over $1 million yet for just like a house in the lot for downtown, but they're trying to work their way up to it.
What's the walkability there? Multiple folks are asking.
You live walkability.
It depends on what part of the town you're on, whether you're on the north or south side. But if you're probably looking, if you're in the middle, a 10-minute walk to the far side of town.
Qualify far side of town for people who are
Yeah,
listening and
sorry,
don't
yeah.
understand what that means.
I should say, if you're walking to
The restaurants on the
that's what people are
to
asking.
Davis Street, to
basically,
Davis Street.
if you're,
They're asking
Davis
restaurants
Street,
and bars.
Davis Street is the heart of Culpepper. So I live about 4 blocks away from it. It takes me 5 minutes to get up to it, and it's an uphill. Everything's uphill.
Is there, in that Virginia Avenue corner of where you live, is there a decent amount of properties that could be walking distance that maybe could be a fixer-upper that are in that area?
So if you're in the Virginia Avenue area, it's not necessarily walkable because the town doesn't have sidewalks all the way to it. That was something they were supposed to do, and they haven't quite done yet. But it's supposed to be in the works. Most walkability, you're only going to walk probably about 15 minutes.
That's not bad.
Yeah, from where the sidewalk stretches. So
So a little Shelf Silverstein, like from where the sidewalk ends, you're 15 minutes into Davis Street.
basically,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Very nicely done, gentlemen. Hour flying by here. Where do you see the growth along Route 15 from Gordonsville to Culpepper?
Route 15 in Gordonsville.
So there's
Culpepper.
already
So-
been some extension right where Old Orange comes out. What's the elementary school near my house? Something with the
Pearl Sample?
Pearl Sample. So from Pearl Sample back, so that is let's call it the intersection of Route 29 and 15 towards Orange. There's already been a stretch of some really nicely done 5-acre lots approximately out there, and then there's a few other corner pieces. Now the problem is on the east side of 15 there, that is that's some owned farmland that's probably not getting turned over anytime soon.
Yeah, that's also owned by the Inskip Farm is one of them, and they own a lot of the property out there. And majority of from that stretch where Scott was talking, just outside of Culpepper, a lot of that still is just farmland.
Now, isn't there a new little brewery?
Yes,
right down
it's
there.
right before the.
What's the name of it?
I don't remember. It's a little red.
It's a red house.
Little red house. It's right before the Rapidan. I can't remember which river it is.
Yeah, it's before the Rapidan River, or
it's right at the
like
bridge.
Yeah,
it's right at the bridge, or it's right at the boundary
This
line.
is very
Culpepper
informative
and
of
Orange.
the. I think this is what it's called. This might be the
I
name
know,
of the
it's
river.
It lives on the internet.
Buy a
I've
red
been there
building.
once. I'm sorry.
This is a good question right there. This is a challenging question, but I think a fair question. If gas prices continue to escalate, any fear that the market will get softer from a pricing standpoint?
For large SUVs or houses?
Yeah.
How about both? Definitely your large SUVs. How about the Culpepper area, I think is the question.
I don't see that being the case in the fact that as gas prices go up, we're also getting into more diverse forms of vehicle transportation, meaning electric and hybrid. So the goal is to drive that cost down. I think if you were doing it in a Suburban or a truck, that could be a bigger pain point. But if we're getting more days of work from home and combined electric vehicles, I think no, I don't think that affects home price points. I think that affects vehicle valuation.
Brittany, you're A-plus people, Brittany. I don't even know you, but you're coming to the rescue here. Gentlemen, it's called Warcraft Brewery, the winery at Rapidan.
Thank you. See,
Thank you.
Yeah,
so Rapidan is the river.
Warcraft.
It's for you, Brittany.
I know the
Give me some
river.
props, Brittany. Thank you.
I knew it had a cool name. It's Warcraft.
Here's an interesting question. Randy, are you finding a lot of out-of-market agents trying to sell in-market homes? And or are you seeing a lot of out-of-market agents sending you referrals and taking a referral commission or fee?
Yes to both. So a lot of we'll go right back to the Culpepper as the midpoint, kind of. I have a lot of Northern Virginia agents that bring their Northern Virginia people that are looking down here. So that is where I've worked with out of town agents when they bring in new buyers. And then yes, I've also talked to. I talk to people that yes, they want a referral fee if they do send me someone, and I have worked with people I've talked to people down in Virginia Beach that they have had people moving back to Culpepper who were originally from. But that's like anything.
Hey, Tara Davis.
Yeah, Tara. Yes, actually Tara. Yes. I'll do the same thing if I have people moving away. I'm gonna obviously hook them up with another agent.
To the second part of that. I do see some weird listing agents where did you come from?
Yeah.
So are those hobbyist agents or are they out of market agents? And by the hobbyists, I mean the side hustle agent.
Out of market.
I've noticed the majority.
I get mailers from people that are.
I'm getting a ton of those.
Way out of market, and I'm like, does this still work? I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of programmed at this point, but still, I think if you're out there watching and you're not in the industry, reach out to your local community and talk to the people. You can't go to your local Facebook group and say, how about this? You want to get the most attention in a Facebook group? Say, hey, what agent should I list my house with? And watch that light up versus
it'll go viral.
Yeah, versus taking out when you go check your mail and get 3 flyers of somebody from an hour away who wants to come sell your house.
Yeah. I hope that's common sense now, right?
Yeah,
maybe not so much. Do you think it's common sense now?
I don't know. I don't know why. Advertising is key, but
you also have to look at the average age of an agent too, because my
I've got to think the Culpepper area, it's trending very old.
The average age is around 50.
Okay, so you are one of the youngest by far.
Yeah, I'm one of a few.
Yeah,
there's only a few of us that are my age.
What's the percentage women versus men?
I don't know the specific, but I know.
Back of the napkin.
Definitely we have more women than men. At least I thought, look, I grew up around my mother, who's been in it since I was in middle school. So I always thought women were the dominant ones in real estate. It wasn't until I got in it that I realized, oh, there's actually a few other guys in here. But no, I believe we have more women within our area that are into real estate.
This is a good question from another agent watching the program. We have 6 firms who've watched the show so far. Scott Morris, Ross Mortgage, a good contact for you. Randy of Piedmont Fine Properties. Jerry asked the agent how his gas overhead, his fuel overhead, has upticked year over year. Basically, I think the question's alluding to your footprint expansion.
Yeah. So originally, when I first started, I would go anywhere I could. So my gas looked terrible as far as affecting my wallet. But since I've narrowed down, I'm actually not as worried. I'm not necessarily worried about my gas prices because I'm always worried about, I mean, as any agent's worried about, showing a house to somebody that's not necessarily interested in buying. That's where I'm mostly worried about, because then it's time wasted and not only just gas wasted. So, yeah, I mean, of course I'm worried about gas prices and it affecting my bottom dollar, but I know it's still affecting the guys that I'm showing properties to, unless I'm doing video showings. But so I'm not necessarily as worried about it. But it's increased obviously as gas prices have increased, but it's something I just have to
Cost of doing business.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
It's the cost of doing business, no doubt. Well done, gentlemen. 11:30 here. You guys crushed it. Any closing thoughts, Scott Morris and Randy?
So I hate to be weatherman's doomsdayer, but if you are not prepared for this coming snowstorm that we might get, if we do get another foot of snow, please go get a snow shovel now. Please go get salt. If you need any of these things, message me for the salt. I don't know that I'm going to be delivering shovels, but I'm happy to load up the truck with some salt and do some drive-bys and drop stuff off.
You're a good man. How about you, Randy?
No, well, to that point, yes, and make sure you check up on the people that you know that are around, like your elderly.
Did Culpepper get hammered?
Yeah, we got about 6 to 7 inches, I think.
I got 8 to 10 in my house, depending on,
Yeah,
right, we got roughly that too. Eastern Albemarle County was hammered.
Yeah.
By this.
Yeah.
No power for 6 days. Did you lose power?
No, I'm in the town of Culpepper though. So.
No power loss at all?
No power loss. I was lucky.
That's
which usually we always lose power. Like we're always first.
That's
to go.
Incredible. You lost briefly?
Briefly.
What? Less than a day?
Less than a day.
Good night. You guys are fortunate dudes right there. You want to really test your marriage, go 6 days with no power and a 3.5-year-old. Mm-hmm. And then the wife is taking buckets of boiling water from the stove to the bath to bathe our kid and herself. That will test your marriage right there. Judah Wickhauer is our director. You crushed this, Randy.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I hope you come back again. Seriously, this dude, A+ dude. Scott Morris, next week, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you got planned?
I don't know yet. I've got a couple things that people that I'm reaching out to that I'd like to kind of put something together with. I do want to continue the expansion of the areas around Charlottesville. I'm all about Zion's Crossroads, Green, Buckingham, Scottsville. Just let's talk about, my goal. Affordable housing. How do we get people in homes as first-time home buyers? What does that situation look like? How are you building your business around that? If you're somebody who does a ton of business, what do you do to help that niche of people?
All set. Judah Wickhauer is our director. For Randy Smyth and Scott Morris, my name is Jerry Miller. This is Real Talk, presented by Yes Realty Partners, Ross Mortgage and Scott Morris, Intrastate Service Company, American Pass, Charlottesville Settlement Company, Sigora Solar, Dairy Market, Pearl Certification, and Shenandoah Joe's, Dave Fafara Coffee, guys.
Dave Fafara.
He's the man.
He is the man.
He is the man. Thank you kindly for joining us. The I Love CVille show is up in 59 minutes. You guys take care. Have a good one. Well done, Randy.